Penn State basketball is back officially. I think we could say that. I'd be shocked if they're not ranked come Monday at this point. Huge win over
Yeah,
number 8 Purdue on Thursday night.
yeah,
81-70. Penn State dominated the game. That score does that actually score does that game no justice because they
no,
were up significant
no,
all game
yeah.
long.
Purdue closed that game out pretty well.
Hmm.
Campom likes to break down the 20 minutes into 10-minute quarters
Yeah.
per se, and Purdue won the last 10 minutes 30-16. But
Hmm.
the first, you look at the first 10 minutes of each. Penn State first 10 minutes outscored 16-9, 24-15, 25-16. Penn State dominated the first 30 minutes of action in this game, especially defensively. Purdue just had a strong last 10 minutes, but it was still not enough because Penn State dominated this game from start to almost finish. I'm not really too worried about those last 10 minutes either. Um, I think that Purdue team kind of I think Purdue didn't take Penn State seriously early on, and by the time they figured out that how good this Penn State team was, it was far too late, and they had to make a late push, and Penn State just, I mean, would not lay off the gas in the back half of the second half too.
Yeah, listen, I've questioned this Penn State team going into this one a little bit just because their best wins probably that Virginia Tech game, and it's not a good Virginia Tech team, but you look at the rest, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Fordham, UMBC, Binghamton, St. Francis, I'm
Yeah,
like, Buffalo, whatever, and then they lose their only top competition in Clemson.
which they
Mind you,
lost.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That loss was like, okay, so they lost against the best team, but they beat all the shitters basically. And then you
Yeah,
look at Purdue, and I'm looking at the spread, and I'm like 1.5 in favor of Penn State. I know it's a home game, but like, are we that confident in them? After watching them last night, it seems like they actually have a couple different dudes, and the most notable name from last night has to be Freddie DeLeon. And if I'm Mike Rhodes, I'm going to pull a Fran Brown and say, "Hey, here's your champagne bottle. Thanks for letting me have him." Because Rick Barnes, you didn't even play him last year, and now top 30 recruit. Now look at him; he's playing like it.
yeah. I mean, this team is just so athletic and so deep this season, and it's a lot because of what Mike Rhodes was able to do in transfer portal. Freddie DeLeon has been a fantastic pickup,
Hmm.
as you said last night. 14 points, 4 of 8 shooting, 2 steals in that game. Had 3 assists and a couple of rebounds as well. Um, and I mean, and that was a game where Yannick Konan Niederhauser was kind of quiet.
Yeah.
He had only 6 points, only 2 rebounds. And he only took 3 shots in that game and a couple free throws. But I mean, but that's what stands out about this team right now is that they're so deep compared to where they were last year. Uh, he's been their team MVP this year, obviously, Yannick. But last night, not only was Freddie DeLeon great, but Zach Hicks was strong. Ace Baldwin had 17 points. Puff Johnson had 13 points. Puff, I think, has looked a lot better than he did last year
Oh
so
yeah.
far this season.
Yeah.
Nick Kern was really good last night. And I mean, this is a team that, you still got guys like Javen Carter, Dominic Stewart, and some others who are really only scratching the surface of what they can do as well. So I think this team has a chance to only get better as the season progresses. But yeah, Fred DeLeon was fantastic last night. He's been a fantastic pickup for Penn State all season. You look at his stats from this year. That was his sixth game this season with double-digit scoring effort. Um, he's been an efficient shooter for the most part this year as well. He's been really, really impressive in my opinion.
Yeah. Just an amazing defensive performance.
Yeah,
Overall, 24 turnovers. Holy shit! Like
nine
that, and
steal.
that,
Yeah,
that's Mike Rhodes' for coaching philosophy right there. It's going to
yeah.
be all about turnovers and creating havoc, basically. They turned. I'm looking now at stat broadcast. 32 of their 70 points came, or 32 of their 81 points came off turnovers.
Yeah.
That's huge right there.
I mean, here's the stat that really stands out to me is Braden Smith was
14
uh,
steals. Jesus.
Braden Smith was, I believe, the Big Ten preseason player of the
Preseason.
year.
Yeah.
6 points last night
Yeah.
and 3 turnovers. They also forced 7 turnovers out of Trey Kaufman-Wren and 5 out of Fletcher Lawyer.
Hmm.
But I mean, you kept one of the best players in the Big Ten out of to just 6 points, and that's impressive. Now, I think I am in the boat that Braden Smith was a big benefactor of having Zach Edey,
Yeah.
on his on his team. But still, it's impressive. But yeah, like you said, 24
Hmm.
turnovers, uh, 14 steals.
Yeah, that's
Now they had 16 turnovers of their own, which you got to improve on. But
yeah, of
um,
course.
14 steals is really impressive. 24 turnovers. Like you said, Mike Rhodes' defense. Mike Rhodes is all about a suffocating defense, and Penn State's been playing some truly suffocating defense so far this season.
Hmm.
Um, you know, top 50 in adjusted efficiency per KenPom defensively. Turnover percentage is top 5 in the country. Steal percentage is top 5 in the country.
Hmm.
So we're doing really good things defensively there this season. And we saw last night, but one of the things that's been more impressive about this team so far, in my opinion, is the tempo that they've played at.
Yeah.
Historically, Mike Rhodes' teams are very slow tempo, to go along with that defense. They don't want to get into shootouts per se. They want to keep it low
Hmm.
scoring. They want to suffocate you, be efficient on the offense side. This season, adjusted tempo 72.2, which ranks 17th in the country. Um, they're playing much
Speed.
faster than I expected, and it makes sense. And now they've done so against mostly weaker opponents, like you said. This was only
Hmm.
the second opponent that they have faced this season outside the top 150 on KenPom, Clemson being the other. But even last night, the tempo they played out was really high against a really good Purdue team. And this is a Purdue team that's going to finish the season, as probably a ranked team. They're going to have a nice seat in the tournament in March. But uh, if Penn State's going to play at this tempo all season, that really changes, I think, that how dangerous this Penn State team is. And the other thing is what a win can do like that last night is build. They're obviously playing with a ton of confidence, but to get a win like that, I think can just cause that confidence level to explode, skyrocket, and they're going to be really dangerous. You look at what is coming up through the end of the month: Rutgers, Coppin State, Drexel, Penn. This team should be 11-1 in my opinion, heading into January. I mean, you know that Rutgers team a little bit better than me,
It's gonna be tough because it's an
but
away game, which
it is an
obviously
away game.
plays a factor.
But we're just looking at KenPom right now, KenPom has them favored through their next 6 games, all the way until January 8th against Illinois. So, I mean, they have a
Yeah.
chance here to make some headway in their resume. Obviously, Coppin State, Drexel, Penn's not going to help, but if you can, win two of those next 3 Big Ten games against Rutgers, Northwestern, Indiana, that's a really, really good start in Big Ten play, I think. And also a win against Purdue like that, if you can pick up a win against, Indiana, Northwestern, Rutgers, all good resume boosters, especially considering that this non-conference schedule has been incredibly weak for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, Big Ten conference is weird this year. But looking like that schedule, if you're 14-1 heading into January 8th against Illinois, you have to be very, very confident in your
Yeah,
tournament chances right there.
yeah. A projected record right now is 22-9, 12-8.
It's a hell of a year for a team that was projected what, second last in the Big
Yep.
Ten?
And what we've
Third.
also seen out of the last couple of years, and I forget the record last year off the top of my head, but I thought it was pretty good. Is this team at home again at the Bryce Jordan Center is really tough to beat,
Hmm.
and that's without really having impressive crowds most nights.
Yeah.
But I think if this team gets off to you know 11-1, 10-2 type start here, head into the heart of Big Ten play, the fans will show up. It's a you build it, they will come type scenario. Um, I think Penn State is the Penn State student body. I think Penn State fan base is
Hmm.
hungry for a good basketball team, and this is shaping up to be a pretty damn good one if they keep it up. Obviously, once you hit the heart of Big Ten play, a lot of things are going to change. It's going to get a lot tougher, but 11-1 start, 10-2 start would be a really good way to start. Gives them some wiggle room as they hit, the heart of conference play.
Yeah, stat popped up on the screen yesterday, but 19-4 under Mike Rhodes when they're at home. So Bryce Jordan Center is making a significant difference, over 8,000 last night. I think that number might jump a little bit higher over the next couple games. Away neutral, they are 5-14. So that's where it gets difficult. You got to start winning those away games.
Yeah.
I think this team this year has the potential to do that. But yeah, no, this is huge. Now 3-0 at home, first ranked teams over the last season and a half now, technically.
Yeah.
Or the last 3 games, whatever.
And looking at their away schedule this year, it is not going to do them any favors. They're going to have to win a lot of tough road games. You look at it: Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa,
Arguably
Michigan.
the three hardest
Yeah,
arenas to play at right there.
Yeah, you talk about your first 5 away games in conference play are Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa, Michigan, UCLA. Those are all teams that are not only going to hard to play out, but are all potential, tournament contenders. I mean, Northwestern's home game. Rutgers is probably the one that will have the most difficult shot at making the tournament right now, but they have two 5 stars on their team. That Rutgers team, I think, is going to get only more dangerous as the season progresses and they settle in more. And then, you got USC, you got a Minnesota road game, but you got to finish. And then you got to finish with Indiana, Wisconsin. So, you're going to have to probably find a way to win about 50% of those games there if they want to make the tournament here. So
you're going to need 20 plus wins, probably.
Yeah. And if they can find a way to go 5-5, 4-6 on the road, and then, you got how many home games?
You have 2 can't lose games.
Yeah.
Like Coppin State, you cannot lose, and Penn, you cannot lose. Drexel, I almost put in that category. If you lose any of those 3, that's where the season starts to take a complete 180.
Yeah. Now on the flip side, their home schedule the rest of the year pretty favorable. Coppin State, Penn, Northwestern, Indiana, all teams Penn State could beat. If Penn State could beat Purdue like they did last night, they could beat anybody. Oregon, you get an Oregon at home is
Cross
big.
Country is huge.
Yeah, that's especially huge. Rutgers, you get at home. Ohio State, you get at home. Minnesota, you get at home. Washington, you get at home. Nebraska, you get at home. Maryland, you get at home. Some tough games in there, but again, if they can take advantage of that home schedule, I think they got 12 home games left or so. Win 10, 11 of those, you can put yourself in a favorable position that you can struggle a little bit on the road and still, have a good chance to make the tournament. But yeah, right now Ken Palm has them at 22-19, 12-8 in Big Ten play. I think that probably puts them on the cusp of a tournament. And it obviously depends on which of those games are wins and which games of those are losses. But they've avoided bad losses so far this season. So, you got to beat Coppin State. You got to beat Drexel. You got to beat Penn. You have to beat Minnesota twice. You have to beat Washington. You got to, kind of like Penn State football does right now. You got to beat the teams you are expected to beat. And then you got to find a way to pull off a couple upsets along the way.
I actually really like that Oregon matchup for Penn State because this is an Oregon team that I'm looking at their schedule has to play at Maryland on January 5th. Home against Maryland on January 5th. Then at Ohio State January 9th. And then they have to go a couple days later all the way to the East Coast, or not East Coast, but to Pennsylvania and play Penn at Penn State.
It's East Coast.
That's a tough little couple games for them. I wouldn't be shocked if Penn State ends up pulling that one out, to be honest.
No, yeah, I think you talk about it. You look at it. They have 4 games in 10 days in that period. Penn State being the last. You mentioned the Ohio State matchup, which would be a tough matchup.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit. And all 4 of those are going to be tough matchups. I think it could be a body blow effect there. 4 games in 10 days. They got a 3-day layoff between Ohio State and Penn State. And I can't imagine they're going to go back home and then come back out in those 3 days. So that the 3-day layoff will help, but that's a tough road. And if Oregon gets through that 4-game stretch unscathed, then Oregon, maybe you should start placing some bets on them to potentially be a national champion this year. But which they have the capabilities doing. But
for sure. Looking at this roster, I know the only real question mark I have is like you mentioned before, Yannick no, Conan Niederhauser has done pretty well as a starting center. Don't expect anything different there. Kachi Nezi has been solid, but there's been no Miles Goodman. Miles Goodman was the highest ranked recruit in their class so
Banged up.
far. I know, yeah. Do we still expect him to play this season? I feel like it's getting to the point where we're already 9, probably going to be 10 games in without seeing him. Is it better off to just redshirt him at this point? Because I know the rule is
Yeah,
technically 1 game in basketball and you're
yeah,
done.
yeah. I think they need to change that rule.
That's stupid. That
The issue
football's
is
4 and
the
this is
issue is
1.
yeah. The issue is how many games do you allow them to play? Because
6.
a third, because football it's basically a third of the season. Now
Hmm.
the football you have to include the fact that you can play 4 games, but then if you're on a good playoff team and you have a run a national championship, you can get 5 more games in. If Penn State makes a run, somebody like Tyzier Denmark could play 5 more games this season.
Yeah.
Really,
And a shit ton more practices,
a
too.
true
I forgot.
freshman on a national championship team who redshirts can play 9 of 15 games or
Hmm.
16 games, whatever it is.
That's
Um,
huge.
so yeah, what would be for basketball? 10 games, 6 games, whatever. That's not our discussion. Yeah, I mean Mike Rhodes is really, really close to the vest about injuries. It's kind of a theme at Penn State, which I get just as you know writers. It's annoying,
Yeah.
but I get it. Yeah, I do wonder almost when is what like because the longer it goes and deeper you get into the schedule, tougher it is, I think, for him to make that adjustment to the college game and
Hmm.
be able to make an impact. I mean, do you
Listen, he was a year
want?
away regardless.
Yeah, yeah. I think having him, if he didn't get injured, I think this was a non-conference schedule that you could have taken a huge
Hmm.
advantage of, get him experience, get him some
It's fair.
run out there, so he could build confidence for Big Ten play.
Hmm.
Yannick was always going to be the go-to this year. Um, and you could argue that Goodman may have been third amongst the centers in terms of potential rotation.
True.
Um, so I think it's hard because it's where is he in his recovery? Um, but I think it's something to consider because it, they are playing well right now. The way they have been rotating guys, and I think it's going to be difficult for him to get back into game. One, where is he in game shape? Is he ready for the conditioning of playing Big Ten basketball? Because it's a lot of big difference between playing non-conference basketball against a bunch of Ken Palm 150 and below teams again than Big Ten play. I mean, Big Ten play is more physical. It's you're going up against bigger, faster, stronger. Where is he in that aspect? Uh, and yeah, I think it would be tough for him to come back in the hard Big Ten play and make an impact, or just be able to build confidence. So it's something to consider for sure. It's not a decision that I'm uh, jealous of Mike Rhodes having to make here.
Yeah. No, not an easy one. All right, that's really all I got for basketball. That's pretty much it. When is the next game?
Um, Monday against Rutgers, Tuesday against
Oh, duh.
Rutgers.
Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, this upcoming Tuesday at Rutgers. Like you said, not an
Just
easy place to play. It's interesting. They have 2 5 stars, but they've had some struggles. I'm
just
intrigued. We will know more about this Rutgers team on Saturday when they play Ohio State, and that's when we'll kind of get a feel. Now they're lengthier than Penn State, but Penn State's been playing like suffocating defense, like we just said. They've been
yeah,
playing really well. They have a better big man than
yeah,
Rutgers. They have the only thing that Rutgers has is the 2 5 stars over them. That's really it.
yeah. Important to remember here too. And not that it really affects Penn State schedule wise, but going to be a little bit more quieter in the next few weeks. Just 4 games the rest of the month with uh, the end of semester coming up, finals coming up, and then Christmas coming up. December always a slower month in college basketball. Just 4 games. 3 of them, Penn State should absolutely uh, cruise to victory. And then Rutgers will be a little bit of a tougher matchup on Tuesday.
Yep. All right. So that's all we got for Penn State basketball right now. I'm sure we'll
Well,
have more. Oh, you got
yeah,
something else? Go on.
just a little uh, quick fun thing here. McDonald's this year I think is doing a in Pennsylvania, at least around me. I think free 10-piece McNugget if Penn State scores 70 75 points in a game with a purchase. Penn State so far
Home or
this
away?
season.
Doesn't matter.
It's a good question. But so far in 9 games this year, Penn State has scored over 75 points in 8 of those 9 games.
Are you telling me that you've taken advantage?
I actually have not. But I wonder if McDonald's is beginning to regret that deal because this is a high-powered offense so far this season. If they continue this, there's going to be a lot of free McNuggets going around in Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, I might have to look into that too and see what the scoop is there. But probably, I'm assuming you have to download the app or something. We'll find out more about that for you guys and get back to you on that. But yeah, that's all we really got for basketball. For me and Dylan, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.